So the latest Song of Ice and Fire adaptation, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, drops soon, and I'm actually really excited. I love the Duncan Egg novellas, and I can't wait to see them portrayed on TV. This story takes place during such an interesting time in Westerosi history, though, and it can be kind of difficult to catch certain nuances, especially if you're unfamiliar with what's been happening. I decided to make this video to lay out these important historical events. This will help viewers understand the dynamics at play when they finally get to watch this series in just a few days. For centuries, Dorne has been in conflict with the Reach and the Stormlands over border disputes. Dornish houses from the Red Mountains have a history of raiding their northern neighbors, making them bitter enemies. Additionally, Dorne is seen as a cultural other in much of Westeros, due to their Rhoynish ancestry and traditions. They're known for being more open when it comes to sexuality. Unlike the rest of the Seven Kingdoms, their inheritance laws follow absolute primogeniture, allowing a daughter to inherit over a son if she is older than him. Although the conquerors Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys turned their attention to Dorne, their attacks were repelled. The Dornish men were even able to shoot down Rhaenys' dragon Meraxes, killing them both. While the Iron Throne would still lay claim to Dorne, Aegon would eventually give up on attempting to conquer it. This made Dorne the only territory in Westeros to successfully fight off the Targaryen invasion. Our story picks up again a century and a half later. Now, pay attention because this era has a lot of Targaryens with the same or similar names. Not that this isn't the case with any other era of Targaryen history, but just keep that in mind. The last of the Targaryen dragons died during the reign of King Aegon III. Previously, the Targaryens had been widely known for both their dragons and their prolific incest. The people of Westeros really did not like that second one, though, especially early on. Without their dragons, there was nothing stopping their subjects from rising up against them again on account of their incest. When Aegon's son Daeron succeeded him, he decided it was time to unite his people in another way, by finally conquering Dorne. He was actually successful for a few years, making Dorne an official part of the Seven Kingdoms. However, the Dornishmen eventually rebelled. When King Daeron returned to Dorne, he subsequently died in battle. Since Daeron died without having any kids, his brother Baelor became the next king. Daeron and Baelor's cousin, Aemon, had become a prisoner of war in Dorne, though. King Baelor walked barefoot to Sunspear to personally return the Iron Throne's Dornish hostages. There, he negotiated not only for Aemon's freedom, but also to arrange a marriage. The bride would be the Prince of Dorne's daughter and heir, Mirya Martell. The groom was the son of Baelor's other two cousins, Aegon and Nerys, who was also named Daeron. The two of them would marry when they came of age. Per Targaryen tradition, Baelor had been married to his sister Dana. However, Baelor was highly devout to the faith of the Seven, and the two of them never consummated their marriage. Upon his return to King's Landing, Baelor had his marriage to Dana annulled. He ordered that she and their other two sisters, Rhaena and Olenna, be locked in the Maiden Vault to prevent their beauty from tempting men at court. Ew, by the way, very not cool. In spite of her confinement, Dana managed to have an affair with their cousin Aegon, you know, the one whose son married the Dornish princess, with whom she conceived a son, Daemon Waters. The news of Daemon's birth caused Baelor to begin a 40-day fast. Not eating for so long kills you, by the way. From there, the crown passed to Baelor's uncle, Viserys, and then Viserys' son, Aegon. During his life, King Aegon IV publicly doted on his bastard son, Daemon, even giving him the Targaryens' Valyrian steel blade, Blackfyre. On his deathbed, Aegon legitimized all of his many bastards. Daemon took the surname Blackfyre from his sword. Aegon's legitimate son with his sister wife Nerys, Daeron, rose to the Iron Throne. He and Mirya Martell already had 4 sons together. The eldest was Baelor, and he had a very Dornish look as opposed to the traditional Valyrian features. Daeron was also responsible for finally bringing Dorne into the Seven Kingdoms, but not through conquest as his forebears had tried. Instead, Daeron arranged a marriage between his younger sister Daenerys and Mirya's younger brother Meryn Martell, who was now the Prince of Dorne. Although much of Westeros had been eager to conquer Dorne, they weren't happy with the consequences, which was Dorne and its people actually being a part of the Seven Kingdoms. Some perceived Daeron as being too close with the Dornish, as many held positions in his court. He's also seen as too bookish and not manly enough to be king. According to some stories, his half-brother Daemon Blackfyre had loved and planned to marry their sister Daenerys. To be completely honest, I doubt this. Daemon was married to another woman long before Daenerys' own marriage. These factors, among others, led to Daemon proclaiming himself King Daemon Blackfyre I. He began a rebellion against his brother Daeron. During the rebellion, Daemon and his 2 eldest sons were killed by another of their half-brothers, Brynden Rivers. Daemon's wife and remaining children then fled to Essos. So, to summarize, Targaryens want to conquer Dorne. Dorne says no. After Targaryens lose their dragons, they do a conquest of Dorne to unite their people against a common enemy and distract them from the incest. That ends badly. To apologize, Targaryen prince marries Dornish princess. Targaryen prince becomes Targaryen king. Targaryen princess marries Dornish prince. Dorne becomes part of the Seven Kingdoms through peaceful means. Other lords do not like Dornish presence at court. They just do not like the Dornish. Targaryen king's half-brother decides he should be king. Does a rebellion about it. Loses. The Seven Kingdoms are at peace and everyone lives happily ever after. I've alluded to it a few times already, but without their dragons, the Targaryens lost one of the major justifications behind their divine right to rule. So if you want to keep your throne, how exactly do you compensate for that? The answer is, of course, marriages. King Daeron II had 4 sons and no daughters. As far as we know, they didn't have any close female and Targaryen relatives of an appropriate age. As a result, doing an incest marriage with any of them was out of the picture. Besides, without any dragons to scare people with, it was pretty likely the Faith of the Seven would kick up a fuss if they kept at it. Daeron wisely decided not to do the thing that was a ticking time bomb for people getting mad at them again. Instead, he arranged marriages with prominent houses across Westeros. This can be seen most clearly in the marriage of Daeron's heir, Baelor, to Jenna Dondarrion. The Dondarrions are a house from the Stormlands who, as I've mentioned before, have historic conflict with Dorne. Not only was Daeron's own marriage the result of an alliance with Dorne, but he was seen as favoring them by others. So by acknowledging the Stormlands in this way, he pacifies their complaints and forms an alliance with them. Baelor and Jenna's eldest son, Valar, will make an appearance in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms alongside Baelor himself. I think there's also a good chance we see Jenna and their younger son, Mataris. The next 2 marriages kind of stretch the definition of not incestuous, but bear with me here. Daeron's second son, Aerys, was married to a distant cousin of his, Aelenor Penrose. We don't know exactly how the 2 are related, but there are 2 Targaryen women who married into other families a few generations prior. It's very likely Aelenor is descended from one of them, making her a pretty distant relation. Like the Dondarrions, the Penroses are a house from the Stormlands, so all that appeasement goes for them too. Not only that, Ronald Penrose was Daeron's master of coin. Ronald's exact relationship to Aelenor is unknown. However, he was married to a first cousin once removed of Daeron's, Aelena Targaryen. This marriage alliance could be seen as a reward for their loyalty, again strengthening the bonds between Daeron and his subjects. Rhaegal, Daeron's third son, married an even more distant cousin, Alis Arryn. Rhaegal has very distant Arryn ancestry through his great-grandma Aemma Arryn. Interestingly, the current Arryn branch has no Targaryen ancestry as far as we know, so this wasn't done for their typical incest reasons. The Arryns are the Lords Paramount, aka the top dogs, of the Vale, so this is clearly another attempt at strengthening the Targaryens' ties to the rest of Westeros. Speaking of strengthening ties, Daeron's youngest son, Maekar, was married to Diana Dane. The Danes are a prominent house from Dorne. I don't believe that Daeron necessarily needed to win the favor of the Dornish at this point, but this marriage is clearly him demonstrating his commitment to maintaining peace with Dorne and unifying Westeros as a whole. By the time of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Diana has already passed away. Maekar does appear in the Hedge Knight, as do his sons Daeron, named for his grandfather, Aerion, and Aegon. Fun fact, his son that does not make an appearance is named Aemon, and you may remember him as Maester Aemon of the Night's Watch. As it turns out, when your children aren't all marrying each other, you actually end up with a lot of descendants. Who knew? In fact, there are about 16 Targaryens alive during the Hedge Knight, the first of the Dunk and Egg novellas. And that's not even counting all the women who married in and the bastards running around. So, how are we supposed to keep track of all those guys? Because A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is only set 2 or 3 generations before Game of Thrones, we actually know quite a bit about how these characters are related to our main protagonists. Before we get to that though, let's just rapid fire go through the minor characters. To preface, any one of these houses could have had a daughter marry into another family, but we'll try to stick to people we know for certain are related to each other. Also, just because someone is the lord of their house, that does not mean that the family line continued through them. To make it simpler, I'll generically refer to them as ancestors. Just keep in mind that unless I'm being specific, this person could be a distant uncle or something. One last thing, even if there hasn't been an official announcement for casting, I'll just be assuming that every one-off character briefly mentioned in the text is making an appearance, if only to cover my bases. First up, Medgar Tully shows up during an early joust, so if you see the trout insignia, that's him. He is an ancestor to the modern Tullys we see in A Song of Ice and Fire, these being Hoster Tully, his brother Brynden, and his children Catelyn, Lysa, and Edmure. That also makes him an ancestor to the Stark kids, Robert Arryn, and Edmure's currently unborn child. Next, we got the Lions of the West, the Lannisters. Lord Daemon Lannister and his son Tybalt Lannister both participate in the tourney. Daemon is the great-grandfather of Tywin Lannister and the great-great-grandfather to Jaime, Cersei, and Tyrion. I do not wish to say great that many times for Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. You can figure it out yourself. However, the modern Lannisters do not descend from Tybalt. Fun fact, in Season 2, we'll actually get to see another Lannister ancestor. Another brief appearance is by Lord Leo Tyrell, also known as Leo Longthorn. He is an ancestor of Mace Tyrell and his children Willis, Garland, Loras, and Marjorie. Additionally, Mace Tyrell has many siblings and cousins who have had their own children, meaning there are a bunch of Tyrell descendants running around the Reach. Since we're on the topic of the Tyrells, I may as well address the Fossaways here. Cousins Raymond and Stefan Fossaway are major characters in this novella, but their current descendants are pretty minor. Minor spoilers, but a knightly house springs up from the Fossaways after this story, so there are actually 2 Fossaway families in the main series. For Raymond, we're actually very certain about who his descendants are. Mace Tyrell's sister, Jonna, is currently married to Raymond's descendant Jon Fossaway. Another one of Raymond's descendants, Jane Fossaway, is married to a Hightower. Another Tyrell and Fossaway marriage is Garland Tyrell and Lyanette Fossaway, though which house she's from is unknown. A few of Stefan Fossaway's descendants died during the Battle of the Blackwater. There's at least one still kicking around though. Like I said, not very major characters, at least not currently, but I'd feel bad if I didn't mention them. I'd also feel bad if I didn't mention the Hightowers. Abelard Hightower participates in this tourney, and his probably descendant Allery Hightower is the mother of Willis, Garland, Loras, and Marjorie Tyrell. It's also very likely we'll see more of the Hightowers in A Dance with Dragons, should its pages ever grace our eyes. Another nobleman who briefly shows up is Manfred Dondarrion. I don't even think he jousts or anything, he's just there to watch. You may remember Beric Dondarrion from the main series. Well, as you may have noticed, they have the same last name, so it's another ancestor-descendant pair. As I mentioned earlier, Baelor Targaryen is married to Jenna Dondarrion. Obviously, she's not an ancestor to Beric, but it felt worth mentioning her here. Now it's time for the main event. The Targaryen family tree, and also the Baratheons get to be there. I'm just gonna be honest, there's no way to show this without some major spoilers about who does and does not become king. So if you're okay with that, or if you promise not to think too hard about the implications, then you can see the family tree. If not, that's fine, just skip ahead to the next section or to the time code on screen now. So here it is! To keep it simple, I cut out anyone who isn't a direct ancestor to Daenerys. Daenerys is descended from Maekar Targaryen, the youngest son of King Daeron. Her great-grandfather is Maekar's own youngest son, Aegon. For spoilers' sake, I can't say any more about Aegon, but keep this in mind, he'll be very important to this series. As an adult, Aegon would marry Betha Blackwood. From here, the Targaryens actually pick up doing the incest again for a few generations. Jaehaerys married his sister Shera for love, but their children Aerys and Rhaella were forced to marry. As we know, they would have Rhaegar, Viserys, and finally, Daenerys. Another of Aegon's children, though, did not keep it in the family, this being Rhaelle Targaryen. Lionel Baratheon appears as a major character in The Hedge Knight. In the distant future, Rhaelle marries Lionel's heir, Ormond Baratheon, though how exactly they're related isn't known. This makes her the grandmother of Robert Baratheon and his younger brothers, as well as Stannis' daughter Shireen and all of Robert's bastards. This Targaryen lineage was used by Robert to justify his reign to loyalists after his rebellion. He was the result of the last branching out the Targaryens did before they were usurped. Before we move on, let's discuss Dunk the Lunk himself. Sir Duncan the Tall is a confirmed ancestor of the goat herself, Brienne of Tarth. Their exact connection is unclear. All we know for certain is that Duncan's shield ends up in the Tarth's armory. It is known that there was a Targaryen marriage with the Tarths in recent generations. While it isn't confirmed who, one of Maekar's daughters, Daela or Rhae, seem to be likely candidates. The theory goes that Duncan was the biological father of a Targaryen princess's child, and that child eventually inherited the title of Lord of Tarth. To be honest, Duncan being an ancestor of Brienne elevates him for me. Brienne is my favorite character in the series. The two of them both exemplify the ideals of knighthood, and I love that they complemented each other in that way. I am so excited for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, you can't even imagine. The Dunk and Egg novellas really get to the heart of Westeros. They let you experience the small folk perspective that can be lacking in the main series, especially this first one. And of course, it's always great to see Dunk and Egg themselves. The two are very funny together, and the scenes we've seen of them in trailers so far is just everything I could ever want. Maybe it's stupid of me to have such high expectations after everything else, but I'm willing to put my confidence behind this one. I'd like to think that the showrunners are listening to us fans, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Thank you so much for watching. This is my first Song of Ice and Fire video, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm going to make more content like this in the future, so please stick around.